Good morning everyone. Today I want to share with you my 2019 street photography secrets. Let's go! So there is something I never shared with you guys, something that might have never happened. It's kind of insane when I think about it right now. So about a year ago, I started this YouTube channel about my photography adventures. One of the videos I did that really got a ton of love was around street photography. It was my settings and the gear, like how to get started easily for street photography. And nowadays it's one of my most viewed videos with a ton of comments saying that it really helped. But there is something I never told you about that video. It actually almost never went out. I actually almost never ever published it. I didn't like it too much at the time when I just shot it. I felt like I was talking too much and that it might help no one. But deep down something pushed me and reminded me, if you think it might help one person, just do it. Just post it, publish it. It doesn't matter. Try. And that's what I did. And after a bunch of comments started flooding in and I was blown away by the support, I was like, wow, it's not helping just one person, it's helping 2 people. Then there was hundreds and maybe 1,000 comments on that video, and that just blew me away. Since then it really motivated to continue that YouTube adventure, take you on those journeys, etc. Now, why am I doing that little throwback? Simply because I want to update you on my 2019 settings for street photography. A ton has changed. I changed the way I shoot, I discovered new techniques, and also I pushed myself to try old ones that I heard of that I didn't want to try, you know. So this video is going to be about the 2019 street photography settings, but really I want to thank you for being here, because without you this adventure would not be what it is. So thank you so much. High five to each and every one of you. Let's talk about settings. What has changed? Well, first of all, when I approach street photography, the first thing I do is I always try to understand what kind of condition I'm going to be shooting in. Am I going to have a lot of inside, outside, strong shadows, not strong shadows? Are the settings going to be pretty consistent or not? That nowadays has a huge impact on my shooting style, because if you remember, I used to shoot about 90% in aperture priority, which is awesome because you don't have to think about the settings, you just control your depth of field, that's all. The rest is just automatically being taken care of. Nowadays I shoot, I would say 50% aperture priority, 50% manual. So here's when I shoot in aperture priority. First of all, whenever I know I'm gonna go for example, under the bridge to outside, etc., that the light is going to change a lot, I don't want to have to think too much. I just want to capture the action. Same if I'm in a super crowded area where I don't have time to adjust my settings, I will shoot in aperture priority with a huge trick. If you don't know it, this is the moment you're going to discover the wheel. No, I'm just joking. It's just such an amazing tool that is built in most cameras. It's called minimum shutter speed. Minimum shutter speed allows you to set a minimum shutter speed at which your camera should not shoot under, which is great because, for example, imagine we're shooting today in the street and you see people biking or whatever and you want to freeze that action. I will shoot at minimum 1/250 of a second or 1/500 of a second. And that's very important because you can set it in your camera and you can tell the camera, well, why don't you change the ISO and make sure you never go under that limit in terms of shutter speed. It saves you so many shots. If you've ever been in a situation where you don't understand why your camera dragged the shutter speed so low, well, that might be why. Now, the great part about shooting in aperture priority is that I control my depth of field, meaning I love shooting shallow, I love shooting around 2.8, but if I want to go to f8, I can go in just an instant and I don't have to worry about changing everything. So it's actually a very fast way of shooting. It's a great way of shooting really fast. Now, what about manual? I shoot a lot more manual than I used to, simply because I love playing with effects. When I'm shooting against the light or when I want to really create strong shadows, etc. It's something that maybe I didn't used to do a lot in the past, and nowadays I really love it. So what I will do is literally shoot manual and set my settings to create shadows shoot silhouettes or have people only lit up by certain amount of lights. And that's especially true when I shoot at night or when I shoot difficult areas where you have like lights in all directions, but you want to expose for just one specific one. And I think it's also a great way to reconnect with your camera and take your time to think about your shot, compose them, and adjust the settings right. I shoot a mix of manual with ISO auto or ISO that I set manually. ISO auto is cool because you can set your aperture and your shutter speed independently and then let the camera decide on the best way to expose that image. But at the end of the day, if you shoot manual, you might as well go all the way full manual. There is something to know whenever you're shooting manual or aperture priority is to make sure that you use the light metering mode that is the best for you. So personally, it is in matrix metering mode most of the time, which means it takes the whole image and tries to find some kind of right metering. But my second one that I've been using more and more, and it's available on that camera, if you don't have it, you can use spot metering to achieve the same result, but it's called highlight metering, and it's going to only expose for the highlights, which is awesome, especially when you're shooting shadows, when you're shooting silhouettes. You want to expose for the super harsh light. You don't want to be exposing for the subject or the rest, you know. So for example, we'll literally expose just for the sun behind me right now, and my whole face would be black. I'll show a few examples to you. Okay, now when it comes to how I shoot it, and that's something that we guys learned together. I mean, I say we, but I shared the video the day I discovered, the day I tried it. I started, instead of half pressing the shutter, you know, like classically, I started using back button focus. And ooh, it is cool, but it takes quite a bit of time to get used to it. Once you get the hang of it though, it is amazing. The way it works is simply, instead of having to half press your shutter button to lock your focus, you actually press a button at the back of the camera and you leave your camera in AFC the whole time, autofocus continuous, which means that you only activate autofocus continuous when you press the back button, which is great because when you release it, you can actually recompose however you want your image. The focus is not gonna work again, which is actually really fast. It's very practical, but I have to tell you, it's not the best in all conditions. There are times that the half press shutter button is a little bit faster, especially when you shoot with only one hand or when you have to activate the camera like that. The back button focus not gonna work out for me, but overall totally changed to back button focus and love it. So if you've never tried it, first of all, you can watch the whole video that I made on it where I explain in details how to use it, and second of all, try it because I think it's awesome. And before we move on to the last part, I want to announce that this video is sponsored by the 30-day adventure to great photos. Alright, what is it? It's simply an awesome photographer's workout. Think about it that way. If you've ever thought of taking your photography to the next level, well, this is for you. Over 30 days, you're going to get daily exercises, daily lessons, daily challenges that will push you to become a better photographer. And that's crucial because I believe that to learn something, to become good at something, you need to commit and you need to do it consistently for a certain amount of days. Just like push-ups, if you read a book about push-ups, you're not gonna have that six-pack. You need to do it absolutely every day. Alright, so if you're interested, if you want to join me on that adventure that I created based on what I learned and how I learned, well, check out the link below. Join the adventure. This is session number 2. Session number 1 had huge success, so why don't you join this one? Alright, with no further ado, let's continue our settings about street photography. So now let's talk a little bit about the gear maybe. In terms of gear, nothing has changed. I'm still shooting with my 1635 f2.8 a lot, simply because I use it for video at the same time. I still shoot with a 7200 f2.8 in street photography. I know it's not the best. I'll make a specific video on that and show you a little bit how it looks behind the scene. But I also introduced a new lens that I really love, which is a 24mm f1.4. You saw me go on a bunch of challenges with that lens in Lanzarote, for example. And what I really like with it is that it's so good at night. It's so good. I love that shallow depth of field. 1.4 is incredible, and with the Sony that I'm using, I can also turn on the super APS-C mode, which is great because I go from 24mm to 35. I'm losing a little bit on quality, but I'm shooting with the A7R III, so I have 42 megapixel, which means even in APS-C mode, I have 18 megapixel, which is still a lot, especially for those kind of shots. That's usually good enough. Now, something worth mentioning, I would love to get an 85mm. That's something I've been talking about a lot. It's super loud, but I never actually got it in the whole year. So hopefully I will get it soon, but for now it hasn't been the priority because most of my budget, if I'm very honest, goes towards travel. You know, most of the money goes literally on travels, on trips, etc. because I think if I can't get to the places, I won't get the shots that I really want. So it's a trade-off. A lot of people ask me how I afford to do that. Well, I actually sacrifice a lot in order to travel. Yeah, it's a trade-off. So I decided I would spend a little less on gear and spend all that money, if possible, on travels and adventures and all that. And that's how I fund a lot of the trips. Now, I want to talk about one last little thing that maybe we don't talk enough about in terms of street photography, which is the style I'm shooting, okay? I'm not talking about the photos, I'm talking about how I'm shooting. I'm just want to update that I still don't go in people's face and shoot them without smiling at them or asking them if they're okay with it. I still feel uncomfortable with that simply because I would really not appreciate if someone did that to me, so I don't want to do it to someone else. But there are times that you want to capture people very candidly when in action, and that's where I started shooting a little bit like Sean Tucker showed me in one of the challenges we did together when he was shooting from the hip. You should watch that video if you want to see how it works exactly, but he was shooting from the hip or from here. He just had the camera and turned around and actually took a little burst while he was turning, and I started using that a little bit. It's great to get details of people, being close to them without necessarily having their face, but you can get some cool shots. So I experiment a little bit with that. Otherwise, I'm still very happy to go out there and talk to people. So at the end of the day, it's really to whatever works for you. Well, that's it. Those are my 2019 settings that right now Cole, my friend over here, just joined. We're gonna go out there and shoot a bunch more content. We've got some great sunset, the sirens in the background, the train passing by. I think this is the real city. This is real street photography. This is insane. Guys, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Hope you have an amazing day. Remember, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. I will see you in the next episode. See you guys, bye. Thank you again, bye.